The Twitch kitchen of content is littered with forgotten titles and washed-up genres.
Who turns? The produce over. Who rotates? The freshness.
But as prophesied by the holy circle of Twitch, juicier, more succulent content shall inevitably return. While Battle Royale games were busy innovating a servable tiki grill, GTA 5 and NoPixel's role-playing server cooked a simple but delicious plate of sausage roll that surprised even the toughest chefs on Twitch.
Oh chef, how about some for the rest of us?
While the recent stench of rotten games is hard to ignore, when a phenomenon like this comes around, it's perhaps sacrilegious to not take notice and appreciate the good parts of the gaming world.
That's
In March 2019, GTA 5 multiplied its average live viewers on Twitch from 20,000 to 90,000, growing more than 350% within the span of the month, and peaking at 300,000 concurrent viewers after Summit1g started playing on a GTA role-playing server named NoPixel. Although GTA role-playing has always had its scene, most prominently in the past with Lirik, what makes this second coming particularly curious and interesting is how well the content has been received by very different groups of audiences. So I wanted to figure out, what is it about Grand Theft Auto role-playing that united all these streamers from different genres? And perhaps more importantly, deep down and psychologically, why is role-playing content so universally enjoyable for such a wide audience? After pages of media studies research, talking to professional Twitch dwellers, and analyzing hours of content, I want to share with you some knowledge about game design, human psychology, and discuss what I believe is a great showcase of immersion in video games. This is the story of the rise of Crime City. Crime City, which is what I'll be calling NoPixel server, is not for the faint of heart. Making a living as a criminal is hard with an active and effective police force.
Sir, you got one more chance to stop or you're gonna be tased.
Okay.
3,
I give up.
2,
Okay.
Hands up. Do not
Fuck.
move.
On the other hand, building an honest lifestyle is arguably even more difficult. The temptations and the faster and more profitable illegal operations are weighed against the consequences of jail time and getting in bed with shady characters.
Why do you want to work with wine?
Because you might actually pay well and it's an honest living and I don't have to kill people.
Okay, well, I don't know about that last part.
In this world, streamers and viewers alike are invested in their characters. Each action requires planning and are thought through meticulously.
It is so loud.
Oh God!
This isn't some game where NPCs will simply remember that. This is a world with real stakes and consequences, where if you snitch on the Vagos gang, you better bet that there will be payback. And at the same time, you have the freedom to form your own crew, even one with your endearing, if not crude, Grandpa Eugene.
Move out my way, cretins.
What is entertaining on the surface is quite clear. The nature of a series of unpredictable events unfolding in real time, with streamers trying to stay in character over the mic, results in hilarious content. Your favorite streamer fully takes on an alternate persona, supported by a wide array of other role-playing streamers trying to make a living in this challenging modern urban crime environment. Combined with GTA 5's realistic open world, Crime City makes a perfect sandbox for RPing and churns out content that keeps on giving. However, this is only answering the what and not the why of our questions. And without answering the why, we resort to the vocabulary of praising games that make us feel like
Batman. Made us feel like we feel like Batman.
To figure out the why, we have to do some 200 IQ thinking and take a look at the psychology behind our desire for entertainment. When we go watch Avengers: Dumbo's Endgame later this month, our intrinsic goal is not just to be informed of the plot or stare at the projection on screen, but to acquire an experience, whether it be an experience of fulfillment, awe, excitement, or more. Given this, we can say that there's you, the projected film, the experience of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and perhaps some annoying kids. It's important to note that the physical movie itself isn't the experience. Rather, it is a medium that enables our experience. The physical film is therefore the middleman that sits between your imagination and the experience. Since we play games and watch movies to gain an experience, the goal of the middleman should be to get us as close to that as possible. When we praise a movie for its smooth dialogues, realistic CGI, and convincing acting, it's because these components make it easy for our imagination to be transported to the movie world. When this is done well, the middleman fades out and we forget that we're playing a game or watching a movie. For our purpose, this state is what we will mean by immersion. Coincidentally, the primary and necessary component of successful role-playing is also immersion. The player has to quite literally take over the in-game character's persona and history. In addition, the strict rules, the mods, and the game of choice are all for the purpose of maintaining the authenticity of this alternate universe. Immersion is core to how we as humans process experiences, and while it would be foolish to attribute Crime City's entire success to immersion, I suspect that it lays at the foundation of the answer to why GTA roleplaying is so widely welcomed on Twitch. Although immersion is an overused word, it is precisely because it's so embedded in our psychology that makes it so difficult to define. To do so requires the understanding of the coding and wiring behind it. So in this next part, we will unravel the specific components that build immersion in video games and how GTA roleplaying on NoPixel manifests them in their best light. We'll be using a 3-part analysis model developed by researchers Ermi and Meira. Let's start with a not so obvious one, the challenge-based component. Imagine for a second the world of The Witcher, as pretty as it is, without any monsters to fight or quests to complete. Or even worse, imagine if your hard-earned prayer bead never drops in Sekiro. Video games at its core are a series of challenges and solutions with promises of rewards. An active task and reward cycle is necessary because, unlike linear media, games require a player's input. If we recall that immersion is the craft of blending out the medium between you and the game, then it's apparent that the boredom of an empty world will expose you to the reality that you're simply playing a video game. Our real life is a journey with a variety of hard decisions, obstacles, tasks, and rewards, which is why it's so painfully evident and immersion breaking when games have a bad challenge system. We sometimes interchange this component with gameplay, and elements within this can range from latency in multiplayer games to the expectation and outcome of a storyline decision, all the way to controller mappings. You know, as someone who mostly uses the PC, let me do us a solid one here and say, there are legitimate reasons why we complain about bad control porting.
That's freaking game, y'all. That's freaking game.
When it comes to NoPixel's Crime City, I think that this component is the most well done. Although online roleplaying, especially one that requires a voice chat, already forces you to a degree of immersion, lacking a challenge system will break your immersion faster than a bunch of... The server does a great job at balancing the rewards and consequences based on the efforts of each action. For instance, the core of the game involves the constant cat and mouse chase between cops and criminals. Its mechanisms, like bank heists and the police alert system, is well built so that each role has the tools necessary for strategic gameplay. The economy is also built with enough rewards to incentivize money making.
I appreciate you selling some of the best right outside where I live. What's your name, man?
Hey. Morgan Freeman, how are you doing?
Oh.
There are many more mechanisms like this, all to motivate and allow the streamers and RPers on the server to create exciting plot, authentic to the NoPixel world, and results in appropriate emotional responses from players, which of course is a sign of immersion.
Holy shit, my fucking heart is gonna pop out of my chest right now. This is crazy.
The sensory component is the most obvious but also a commonly misunderstood one. While higher fidelity graphics and audio definitely helps with immersion, the authenticity and consistency of the sensory details are equally, if not more important and necessary. Our imagination is quite powerful, since we have no problem being immersed in books or 2D graphics, but it's also quite sensitive to our intuition for the game of what doesn't belong here. The well-designed city assets in GTA 5 is perfect for role-playing, but it is in the small details of the NoPixel server mods, such as the coding of characters facing each other when talking, a more accurate sense of time when performing crimes, the integration of the smartphone graphical UI to execute server-based actions, and in-game websites and a dark web that keeps Crime City's sensory elements, well, sensible. It's also worth noting that on the streamer's end, they often choose to remove their cam and use voice changers to enhance sensory immersion. Now, I'm not saying that Crime City doesn't have its fair share of immersion-breaking bugs, or that Twitch streamers are best at controlling their characters.
I am so sorry.
Oh, shit.
I am so sorry.
The point is that the totality of the implementation of these components make the NoPixel experience more immersive than not. In fact, it's because we're immersed that makes some of the bugs and accidents comically surprising, resulting in funny moments, especially when an impromptu justification is made up as to not break RP.
Wait, Buddha's
gone. Where'd he go?
Oh god, I've seen this in the Avengers.
Oh shit, Avon.
Oh no.
This is Thanos is doing.
If the sensory details are the exteriors of a house, the imaginary component, the last piece of the puzzle, is the blueprint of the house. The real world is not built by stacking random objects together. Most things have a reason or meaning behind it, and serves a specific function. For example, a bed is made for you to sleep in, and the PC was invented for us to play RuneScape on.
This brings me great joy.
As such, a game that is immersive also needs its foundation, a story or a reason for the way things are. It's actually not even necessary to be explicit about it. Alright guys, here comes the Sekiro and Dark Souls reference. As an example, From Software Games has lore and reasoning behind most of its items and bosses, and subtly exposes you to it as you play through the game rather than directly telling you. This imaginary component is why many successful RP servers require an application to join and have strict rules about character behavior. The actions of your characters should reflect their personality and rationale to cement a consistent world. The multiplayer aspect of online role-playing beautifully complements this component, since the interactions between characters and the history they build are collectively writing the story and context of Crime City. With each multiplayer interaction, the lore and drama of Crime City grows richer and juicier. These three components in video games are then finally funneled through the player's perspective, which is comprised of their personal history and view of the world. If the sum of all passes the player's cognitive framework of what constitutes a believable world, the player eventually becomes immersed. This model, developed by researchers Ermi and Meira from the University of Tampere, is quite comprehensive, but in the case of Twitch RPing, it's a bit more complex. The middleman between the viewer and the streamer is Twitch the platform. On top of that, the middleman between the streamer and Crime City is the modded GTA 5 game. Given the two-tiered process, it is even more impressive what NoPixel and the streamers were able to accomplish. It is ultimately analogous to the chat watching an improv play. The audience attends the play for an entertaining experience put on by the cast. The actors, using a combination of skills, technology, and props, immerses into and plays out their characters, and in turn, the viewers experience the fictional world through these characters. So going back to our original question, why did role-playing in Crime City catch on so quickly, and why do so many enjoy this type of content? At its roots, the streamers, RPers, and NoPixel's modded GTA did an exceptional job at creating an overarching Immersion Blanket, which delivered an authentic and exciting experience that accurately lives up to the name of Crime City. Furthermore, online multiplayer role-playing on a streaming platform like Twitch, as opposed to a single-player RPG, is an extremely effective medium to build immersion between the players, the fictional world, and those spectating. This effect created and multiplied viewers invested in streamers and their Crime City persona. Of course, depending on the viewer, there are many different reasons why these streams are so entertaining, like the rare moments when streamers cross over, a whole gambling addiction storyline, and the Oscar-worthy performance of everyone on the server. My point is that the deep immersion that Crime City builds enhances each of these experiences and makes them matter and mean more. It is why so many viewers tune in day after day and why this type of content easily rivaled that of other genres. Sadly, GTA 5 and Crime City is not immune to the circle of Twitch. And although it will eventually be returned to the dark side of the pantry shelves, it will always hold a special place in the history of Twitch.
Half car, half man.
Damn.
Presenting.
Yeah. One time I had some coke. I laid down on the ground. It was a joke. This shit wasn't coke at all. Baking soda. Now I'm laying on my back.